2:47 a.m. local time, Southern Caribbean Sea, roughly 90 nautical miles north of the Venezuelan coast. Aboard a U.S. Navy destroyer conducting a routine counter-narcotics and freedom of navigation patrol, the overnight watch team in the Combat Information Center picked up something that didn't match the evening's expected traffic pattern. A large surface contact, moving slowly, low in the water, on a heading that would eventually intersect international shipping lanes north of Venezuelan territorial waters. Surface contact, designation unknown, large hull profile, speed 9 knots, no AIS transponder, the radar operator reported, eyes on the display. Slow-moving, heavily loaded tankers weren't unusual in that stretch of the Caribbean, but this one had gone dark. No automatic identification signal, no registered flag broadcast, nothing but a raw radar return where a legitimate merchant vessel's full profile should have been. The tactical action officer leaned over the console. Run it against the watch list. Within minutes, satellite imagery correlation and open-source shipping data confirmed what the crew had already begun to suspect. The tanker's hull dimensions, draft, and last confirmed position matched a vessel believed to be transporting sanctioned Iranian crude, one that had reportedly departed a Venezuelan port days earlier after an extended, unusual port call. "This isn't a coincidence route," the intelligence officer said, cross-referencing the track against known sanctions-evasion patterns tracked by the task force. "This is a flagged vessel." That single phrase reframed the entire watch. A slow tanker alone, even a suspicious one, is a monitoring problem. A slow tanker escorted by armed vessels is something else entirely. At 2:52, the picture sharpened further. Two smaller, faster contacts appeared on radar, flanking the tanker at a distance of roughly 2 nautical miles on either side. Two additional contacts, moderate speed, positioned symmetrically around the primary track, the radar operator reported. Their profile, cross-checked against known regional naval assets, matched Venezuelan Coast Guard patrol craft. Vessels that, under normal circumstances, rarely operated this far from the coastline, and almost never in this kind of tight escort formation around a foreign-flagged tanker running dark. The destroyer's captain arrived on the bridge within minutes of the initial alert, taking the report from the officer of the deck without raising his voice. "CIC has an unflagged tanker, suspected Iranian crude, escorted by 2 Venezuelan patrol vessels 90 miles off the coast." He absorbed it for a moment, then gave the first order of the night. "Close to shadow distance, maintain international waters, no provocation." The destroyer altered course, angling to intercept the formation's projected track while remaining carefully on the correct side of the boundary separating international waters from Venezuela's exclusive economic zone. Naval lawyers aboard larger task force flagships had drilled this distinction into every commanding officer operating in the region for a reason. Freedom of navigation only holds up as a legal and political shield if it's exercised with precision, not improvisation. At 2:58, the destroyer's electronic warfare team picked up a faint radio transmission between the tanker and one of the escorting patrol boats. Not encrypted, just low power and directional, clearly not intended to travel far. "Partial intercept, mixed Spanish and what sounds like Farsi phrases," the EW officer reported, flagging the recording for immediate translation support from the task force's intelligence cell. A tanker allegedly carrying Iranian oil, escorted by Venezuelan patrol craft with communications mixing Spanish and Farsi, was no longer an ambiguous picture. It was evidence of coordination between two governments that had spent years publicly discussing exactly this kind of cooperation. Sanctions evasion, mutual defense rhetoric, joint naval visits, but rarely, if ever, been caught operationally combining assets like this in real time under direct American observation. "Log everything. Don't editorialize in the reports," the captain said. "Let the data speak." That instruction mattered. In an environment already thick with political noise between Washington, Caracas, and Tehran, the value of what the destroyer's sensors were collecting depended entirely on its accuracy and restraint, a verifiable record, not a narrative built on assumption. At 3:04, the destroyer closed to 5 nautical miles, well within its own visual and sensor range, but still comfortably inside international waters relative to the formation's track. Long-range optics picked up the tanker's outline clearly for the first time. A mid-sized crude carrier, riding low and heavy, consistent with a full cargo load, its hull markings partially painted over, another classic sanctions-evasion signature, an attempt to obscure ownership and origin from casual visual identification. Tanker confirmed heavily laden, hull markings obscured, the intelligence officer reported. This matches the profile of at least 3 prior interceptions in the region over the past 18 months. None of those prior cases, however, had involved an active foreign escort. That was the new and genuinely alarming variable. At 3:09, one of the Venezuelan patrol boats broke from its position alongside the tanker and began accelerating toward the Amalo destroyer, closing the gap rapidly. "Patrol craft breaking formation, closing on our position, speed increasing to 22 knots, the surface warfare officer reported, tension entering his voice for the first time that night. The captain's response came without hesitation. "Maintain course and speed. Hail them. International channel." The radio call went out clean and procedurally correct. "Venezuelan patrol vessel. This is a United States Navy warship operating in international waters. State your intentions." The reply, when it came, was immediate and combative. "You are approaching Venezuelan sovereign interests. Turn back." The American response followed just as fast. "Negative. We are in international waters conducting lawful operations. Maintain safe distance." The Venezuelan boat didn't slow. "Distance now 3 nautical miles and closing," the radar operator reported. Inside CIC, the room's energy sharpened without tipping into panic. This was, after all, exactly the kind of scenario destroyer crews train against constantly in the region. A smaller, faster vessel attempting to assert a presence far larger than its actual capability, banking on the political sensitivity of the moment to do the work its hull and weapons couldn't. At 3:13, the second Venezuelan patrol boat also broke from the tanker's flank, moving to close on the American destroyer's opposite side. "Second craft moving to intercept from the port side," the surface warfare officer called out. "They're trying to bracket us." The tactical action officer studied the developing geometry. One American destroyer, one large tanker holding its slow course, and now 2 smaller escort vessels converging from either side of the U.S. warship, rather than remaining with the tanker they'd been protecting moments earlier. "They've made a choice," the tactical action officer said quietly. "They'd rather challenge us directly than let us get close enough to identify that tanker clearly." That inference would prove significant later, but in the moment, the priority was simpler. Manage 2 small craft converging without escalating into an incident neither government could walk back easily. The captain ordered the ship's small-caliber weapons crews to man their stations. Non-lethal measures first. "Deck teams to stations, weapons tight. No warning shots unless one of them closes inside 1,000 yards on an aggressive bearing." The order reflected the layered restraint doctrine standard across the fleet. Every step calibrated, every escalation held in reserve until the geometry actually demanded it. At 3:17, the nearer Venezuelan patrol boat crossed inside 2 nautical miles, its bow angled directly at the destroyer's beam rather than adjusting to a parallel shadowing course. "She's not slowing," the radar operator reported. "Range 1.8 nautical miles." The captain's voice stayed level. Second hail, firmer tone. Venezuelan vessel, your current heading creates a collision risk with a United States warship in international waters. Alter course immediately. The response was shorter this time, angrier. This is our water. Leave. The captain's answer was blunt. Negative. We will not alter course. You are the vessel creating risk. At 3:19, the destroyer's air detachment, a single MH-60R already fueled and on standby per standing orders for this patrol area, received clearance to launch. Within 4 minutes, it was airborne, climbing to establish an overhead vantage point on the unfolding standoff, its infrared sensor immediately locking onto both patrol boats and beginning a continuous feed back to CIC. The helicopter's presence changed the tactical picture immediately, the way it almost always does in these encounters. From a small patrol boat's perspective, a warship with visible deck guns is one kind of problem. A warship that has just put an armed helicopter into the sky above your own vessel, tracking every move in real time, is a very different kind of problem, one that removes any illusion of acting unobserved. Both patrol craft reducing speed, the sensor operator aboard the helicopter reported within minutes of establishing station. Range holding steady, not continuing to close. Inside CIC, nobody relaxed outright, but the immediate collision risk that had dominated the previous 10 minutes began easing. At 3:24, with both Venezuelan boats holding at just under 2 nautical miles, the destroyer's captain made a call that shifted the encounter's center of gravity back to where it had started. Let the escorts hold position. We're not here for them. Close on the tanker. The destroyer adjusted course, moving to approach the drifting tanker directly, while the 2 patrol boats, no longer actively closing, shadowed from a distance rather than continuing their bracketing maneuver. This was, in its own way, the sharper tactical decision of the night. The Venezuelan patrol boats had tried to draw the American destroyer into a confrontation over open water, a fight about pride and territory that would generate exactly the kind of dramatic footage and diplomatic outrage both Caracas and Tehran could use. By declining that fight and refocusing on the actual object of interest, the tanker itself, the American commander denied them the story they'd been building toward. At 3:31, the destroyer closed to within 1 nautical mile of the tanker, well inside the range needed for full optical and electronic identification, while remaining outside any physical boarding posture that would require additional legal authorization not yet in hand for this specific vessel. Full hull identification underway, the intelligence officer reported, cameras and telephoto optics locking onto the vessel's stern, where paint had only partially obscured what appeared to be an altered name, an IMO number. Tanker crew visible on deck, no visible weapons, appears to be standard merchant crew complement, the surface warfare officer added, watching the thermal feed. There was no indication of a security detail aboard the tanker itself. The muscle, such as it was, had been entirely delegated to the 2 Venezuelan patrol boats, now holding well outside the immediate area. At 3:36, a formal radio hail went out to the tanker directly, in English and Spanish. Unidentified tanker, this is a United States Navy warship. You are believed to be transporting cargo in violation of international sanctions. State your registry and cargo manifest. For nearly a full minute, there was no response at all. Then, finally, a heavily accented voice came back, clearly reading from a prepared statement rather than improvising. This vessel is operating under Venezuelan flag authorization. Our cargo is legal commercial trade. The claim didn't match the vessel's own hull markings, its unlit transponder, or the obscured registry numbers the destroyer's cameras had already captured in high resolution. But confronting that contradiction wasn't the destroyer's job that night. Documentation was. "Copy that. Continue on your present course," the American radio operator replied, deliberately neutral. The goal at this stage wasn't confrontation or interdiction. Legal seizure of a vessel in these circumstances required interagency authorization well above the ship's own command, coordination with agencies specializing in sanctions enforcement, and often days of legal groundwork the destroyer simply didn't have in the middle of an active night patrol. The goal was documentation, a complete, defensible, time-stamped record that could support an interdiction operation on another day under proper authority, rather than an improvised one carried out under pressure at 3 in the morning. At 3:42, with full imagery, radio traffic, and track history logged, the captain gave the order to pull back to standard shattering distance. "We have what we need. Re-establish patrol distance. Keep the helicopter up for another 20 minutes, then recover." The destroyer eased away from the tanker, resuming a parallel track roughly 3 nautical miles off, monitoring rather than pressing further. The 2 Venezuelan patrol boats, which had held their position throughout the identification pass, began moving to reform alongside the tanker once the American ship pulled back, apparently satisfied that the immediate confrontation had passed without escalating further. Neither side had fired a shot. Neither side had made physical contact, but both sides had, in their own way, gotten exactly what they came for that night. Iran and Venezuela had demonstrated, deliberately and in real time, that Iran's sanctions-evasion shipping network and Venezuela's own oil smuggling operations weren't just running in parallel, exploiting similar loopholes independently. They were, at least on occasion, actively coordinated, sharing routes, sharing escort assets, and apparently sharing enough operational planning that crews aboard vessels from 2 different countries were communicating with each other in real time. For the destroyer's crew, none of that larger strategic picture changed what the night actually looked like from the bridge. Hours of careful, deliberate, restrained maneuvering, 2 smaller vessels trying to provoke a reaction that never came, and a commanding officer who chose documentation over confrontation, understanding that the more valuable outcome that night wasn't a headline, but a case file. Out on the water, as the sun rose fully over the Caribbean, the American destroyer resumed its standard patrol pattern, its radar continuing to sweep the horizon for the next contact that didn't quite fit the expected pattern. Behind it, disappearing back toward the Venezuelan coastline, a tanker and its 2 escorts carried on toward a destination that for now remained just out of reach of anything more than watchful eyes and a very complete record of everything they had done that night.